Hello again to all my food warriors and welcome back to the channel. Today is a classic example of being out in the market, seeing an ingredient that just inspired an idea for dinner. And what we have in front of us is about 10 pounds, I couldn't help myself, of beautiful heirloom tomatoes that I found beautifully ripe to the touch. Great variety at the market. We've got some of these beautiful, almost kind of burgundy ones with a little bit of green. We've got these big ones, reddish hue. We've got some of these that are more pink in terms of pigmentation. We've got some of the yellow ones as well, different sizes, different shapes. Some of these look like an angry old man. Anyway, we'll leave that to the side for a sec. But saw these and said, you know what, this is something that, with an ingredient that's just so fantastic and so ripe, this is something that inspired a dish for dinner. And so what we're gonna make tonight is a dish from Naples, been making this for years, spaghetti allo Scarpariello. Don't be intimidated by the name. Really, Scarpariello comes from la scarpetta. Scarpetta being a piece of bread that really you use to mop up the juices either from the pan or from the dish. You stick it into your face. It's one of the best things. One of the best things that's just part of the Italian table. And so this array of tomatoes tonight kind of brought me thinking about that. It's Good Friday here, and for those of us who celebrate Easter, obviously we're staying away from the meat today, and so this is a beautiful vegetarian dish. Normally in Naples, foothills of Vesuvius, they have a specialty kind of tomato that's local to that region, grown in volcanic soil. They're called pomodorini del Pienalo. And these tomatoes are kind of more of a grape tomato, I'd say about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches tall, kind of grape shaped with a little point at the bottom. Very, very sweet, very low in acidity. That would be the traditional tomato that they would use in the preparation of this dish. But since we don't live at the foothills of Vesuvius, at least not yet, maybe one day. Again, is it a reason not to make the dish if we find tomatoes of this quality and of this variety? Absolutely not. So, you know what? My kitchen, my rules, and certainly this was just one of those treasures that we found in the market today that brought me thinking about that, and so this is what we're going to use today. It could not be simpler, literally a handful of ingredients. So what we're going to do, normally this dish would be made in a skillet, everything made on the stovetop, very, very quick. We're going to do this in the oven. We're actually going to roast these tomatoes off, and the reason being it gives such a silky and luxurious consistency once we blend everything together. We evaporate the water, we concentrate the flavors. We're going to put a little bit of garlic in here as well. That's going to roast off and caramelize and be much softer than what you would if you would just put it in a pan. Some chilies, and then we'll finish it off with some basil at the end. Very, very simple, very, very healthy, and with tomatoes of this quality, I simply couldn't say no. And so all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take a sharp paring knife. We're going to take off the stem end here. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to cut this up into pretty large chunks. So I'm not too worried about the size, kind of bite-sized chunks. Keep in mind, this is all going to go in the blender before we serve it. And so I'm not too fussed about the size, kind of rough chop. We want to make everything in and around the same size, that way it cooks pretty well evenly. But all we're going to do here is we're going to take all our tomatoes, again, remove the stem, and we're going to roast these in a hot oven, about 450 degrees for, I'd say, about 35 to 45 minutes. In addition to my tomatoes, what we're going to add, I have a chili pepper here. We're just going to cut this chili pepper up roughly into a few pieces. Throw those in here. Again, this is all going to cook down. I've got 5 or 6 cloves of garlic. And this is all scaling up relative to the number of tomatoes that I have here. So I will dispatch these tomatoes, get these in here, and I will see you in about 3 minutes. All right, we are back. We have taken care of all of our tomatoes here. Obviously, we needed a slightly bigger pan. I had underestimated slightly on the first round, and so how can we not get excited about all of these colors? Vibrant, beautifully ripe. I love this. This is exactly the kind of cooking that gets me excited. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to get just a little pinch of salt here. Remember, this is a lot. We have a lot of tomatoes in here, and so we want to make sure that we season this appropriately. We can always adjust our seasoning later. We've got a little bit of freshly cracked black pepper. Again, we're just going to give this just a dusting, and then we have our olive oil. I'm just going to take my little spigot off here. This is a good quality olive oil from Liguria. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a nice coating here. Abundant olive oil in this dish. The olive oil is as much a part of the final product as anything else. It helps in the mouthfeel. And again, if we're going to use a fat in this dish, extra virgin olive oil is absolutely fantastic for this application. So we're just going to give this just a very quick massage. Make sure that we have everything coated. And then we are going to throw this into a 450 degree oven for between 35 and 45 minutes. And what we want to do is roast those tomatoes off, evaporate some of the liquid, concentrate the flavors, and we want this dish to be beautifully sweet and beautifully fragrant in the end, which I think we will achieve. I'm just going to cover that garlic so it doesn't burn. There we are. All right, so I will put this in the oven and I will see you in 45 minutes. Right, we are back. It has been just over an hour. I mean, these were very juicy tomatoes and they released a lot of their liquid, and so we wanted to make sure that we cooked that down. But look how beautifully all of these tomatoes have roasted. They've intensified in flavors. They've cooked right down. The garlic is beautifully caramelized and sweet. Our chili peppers have mellowed. And all we want to do now, and normally if I was doing this in the summer, I would do this right in a pan with tomatoes right out of the garden, basil out of the garden, and I'd use one of these suckers and I'd just get right in there and just get medieval on it and create a very, very rustic, very, very, peasant food kind of sauce. And the flavor is absolutely fantastic. One of my absolute favorite things to eat in the summer. It's quick, it's healthy, gets dinner on the table, gets everybody fed, and it's always a crowd pleaser. What we're going to do today, because we have a little bit more time, we're going to use a different technique. So because we've roasted these off, we're now going to take these and we're going to throw them in the blender. I'll probably do this in a couple of batches. And then we'll have some for tonight and some that we'll package off and we'll freeze. So the reason why we do this, and we roast these off, they intensify in flavor, but the blender really gives it a very, very silky, very luxurious mouthfeel that you just can't get in any other method. What happens is you've got the flesh and the skins that will thicken the sauce. You get the olive oil that will help to emulsify it. The mouthfeel is like nothing else. And so if you have the time, I highly recommend it. This technique is fantastic for that. Otherwise, absolutely no problem at all. Do it the old way, in the pan, get your frustrations out with a potato masher, and you have a beautifully rustic sauce to mix your pasta with. So I will take this to the blender, and I will see you in about 5 minutes. All right, we are coming down to the home stretch. What I have here in my frying pan is half of the sauce that we had as we blended it up. The other half is sitting behind me there cooling. Incidentally, this doubles up as probably the best tomato soup that you've ever had. The depth of flavor, complexity of flavor. You sprinkle a little bit of parmigiano reggiano, a little bit of pecorino romano, some cheese in there, a little bit of freshly sliced basil, and a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and I'm telling you, you will have the best tomato soup that you've ever had in your life. Forget this stuff that comes in a can and all that. We can do better than that. So, simplicity in the pan. All we're going to do now is we're just going to slice up as we're waiting for our pot of water to boil here for our pasta. I have 1 kilo, so 2 500-gram packages of a good quality spaghetti. This is a pasta from Gragnano, beautifully bronze die cut, fantastic product. So this is what's going to be going into our water. All we're going to do now, we don't have any heat under our sauce, but we're just going to get our basil very, very roughly cut, very roughly chopped here. Again, this is home cooking, and all we need here is a very sharp knife, and we just want this basil to speak for itself in the final product. We don't want to cook this too much. We just want to give this a little bit of heat, and we want that bright note of the basil to really speak for itself. So we're just going to run our knife through this a couple of times, and that's it. This is fantastically rustic. We'll take all of this and just put this into our sauce. Sweep up our board here, and you notice our board isn't green. That speaks to the sharpness of our knife. All of the chlorophyll and all of the essential oils have stayed in the leaf, and that's what will flavor our sauce. So we are pretty well there. As we've tasted this, I'm telling you, the depth, the complexity, the richness of flavors, because we've used multiple varieties of tomatoes, we get this beautiful orange color. Because again, we had that multiple variety of tomato. If we were doing this with cherry tomatoes, obviously it would take less time in the oven, but the flavor profile would be much more singular. Here you have, many tomatoes that are complementing this flavor. Absolutely fantastic. So we are going to get another minute or so. We're just going to let this sit. We're going to stir this in. As the pasta gets thrown in, all we're going to do is we're going to cook this to the package directions. We're going to make sure that we take this out when it's al dente, and we will finish this up in our sauce. Before we throw the pasta in, we will give this just a little bit of heat just to bring this together. And so I will see you in about 8 minutes time. All right, I think we are there. We are going to go right to the plate now. Turn the heat off on our pasta, and we're just going to pull this right out of the water. So a little bit of protection to protect our hands here. And there we are. All right. Now we are going to bring this right to our simmering pan of sauce, and we are going to get all of that right in there. There we are. And we have a few stragglers. Not a problem. We will fish them out so that we have no noodle left behind here. Everybody in the pool. There we are. One left. There we are. All right, so we will just give this a quick stir. We want to make sure that we get all of our pasta into our sauce. All the surface starch from the pasta will continue to thicken our sauce. But this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm just going to switch up here to a silicone spatula just so that we can move a little bit more of that liquid into our massive noodles here. There we are. Absolutely gorgeous. And this will continue to thicken as it mixes. I gave our sauce a quick taste test while we were waiting for our pasta to cook, and absolutely nothing required. Just gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that. The color of that sauce, it's like a sunset. I'm telling you, and the variety of tomatoes that we have in here really does make a difference. If you don't like it with that little kick of chili, by all means, feel free to leave that out. Although if you live in Coach Joe's house, you know it's mandatory. There we are, and we are done. We are done. Now obviously this is easily going to feed, I'd say, 8 hungry people. We made this big batch because we do want leftovers for the week. We are going to be on the field several nights this week, and so to have quick dinner and lunch options, especially for the kids, is a great thing to have any time of the week. And so what we're going to do now are spaghetti allo Scarpariello. We're just going to grab some of this, put it right into our dish. Oh, I love that. Look. Oh, I need a little bit less. Look at that. And now we just want to top that with a little bit of the extra sauce. Oh, I'm telling you, this is absolutely gorgeous. And if we had a little bit of crusty bread, we'd be getting right in there alla scarpetta. Again, one of the joys of doing it the Italian way. So what I have here, some freshly grated pecorino romano. You can use parmigiano reggiano. Absolutely not a problem there. But this is a more traditional cheese in the south of Italy. And since we had it at home, we're going to use it. As always, we say let it snow. We're just going to mix this into our sauce. And again, this cheese, as it melts, will help our sauce thicken as well. The smell is absolutely phenomenal. So we're going to get right in there. this a taste. Wow, look at that. Absolutely fantastic. The sweetness from the tomatoes. You have that little hint, that little kick from the chilies, that beautiful hum of the garlic, the brightness of the basil, and that beautiful nuttiness of the cheese. This is an absolutely complete dish. Again, peasant food, simple ingredients, prepared simply, but with a little bit of love and care. Absolutely fantastic. I do hope you try it. As always, do like and subscribe to the channel if you find the content useful. Do share the content, as that is what we're all about. And this is Coach Joe saying that I will see you on the next one.